The holiday season is here, and this is the start of something fun. It's a season centered on when to shop, when to wrap, when to open presents. But at Academy Sports and Outdoors, it's all about where, because the best holiday fun happens out there, on the driveway with a new basketball hoop, out back around the fire pit, or up in the deer stand. Because however you shop, no matter your fun, we've got it. The right stuff at the right price, in-store and online at academy.com. Academy, have fun out there.
This is a Bramble Jam podcast.
Welcome to Girls Gone Hallmark, a Hallmark Review podcast. I'm Megan, and I'm a longtime Hallmark fan.
I'm Wendy. I'm a former Hallmark hater.
Today, we are joined by costume designer to the Hallmark stars, Keith Nielsen. Keith is a returning guest. He joined us last year to discuss Mystic Christmas in a fan favorite episode. So we had to bring him back in 2024, and you're having a major year. Welcome back to Girls Gone Hallmark.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So you costumed 3 movies in this year's countdown: The Finish Line, The Christmas Quest, and a little movie, Holiday Touchdown, A Chief's Love Story. Are you so proud of yourself?
Yeah, it's kind of, this weekend was weird. It was very like surreal because especially all of them airing on the same weekend.
Yes.
I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, it's over. It happened.
Well, that's the crazy thing is they all dropped the same weekend, like everything within 2 days of each other. But obviously they didn't film that way. So talk about what the last year has been like schedule wise for you.
Well, it was weird because a lot of people remember the actors and the writers were on strike a lot of last year. So that kind of changed things. And then right in January, I did Finish Line, end of January, beginning of February through February. Even though it's Finland, it mostly was filmed in Iceland. We did do a week in Finland, so all of like Santa's Village is real. And actually we filmed like when they actually go and meet Santa is actually like a World War II bunker. It's like really, really deep in the ground. It's wild. And then we rolled literally 2 weeks later right into Christmas Quest. And then I think I was off for a couple weeks, and it's so funny because I was kind of asked about another job, but then I got a call from someone from the network, Candace, and she was like, we have a job for you, but I can't tell you about it. And I was like, okay. And she's like, please just trust us. And I was like, as long as I have a job, I'm good.
And that was Chiefs.
Turned out being Touchdown, which was in the blistering heat of July.
Yeah, in Kansas City. Lovely, lovely summer weather there.
Yeah, there's no like breeze from the water or anything like that. Like growing up in Connecticut, like I didn't realize, even though I'm in central Connecticut, there's very much a breeze from the water still. Yeah, we didn't have any of that.
Yeah, it's just the plains. I actually don't know anything about Kansas City geography.
I know. I'm like just super impressed. You're pulling out the Farmer's Almanac over here about weather.
Well, the weird thing
in
about
Kansas
Kansas City, which I didn't know, is it straddles Kansas and Missouri. So like certain things are in Missouri, certain things are in Kansas. So it's like a whole thing.
I did know that.
So we are going to Kansas City in the next couple of weeks for their Hallmark Christmas experience there, and I was like, "Look, I don't know if I'm going to be in Kansas or Missouri.
We're going to be in
freaking
Missouri.
Idea."
You're in Missouri.
The airport's in Missouri. I think the airport's in Missouri.
See, I don't know.
My understanding is the vast majority of Kansas City is in Missouri, which is very confusing. You can understand why Americans don't know geography because it's all.
Well, it was confusing for me in the film world because of like tax reasons. I had to stay on the Missouri side because different states have different film tax incentives. So it was constantly like my assistant Alana would like announce herself in a store and be like, "What state am I in?"
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. And what a coincidence. Your assistant's name is Alana, which is also the name of the star in our movie.
Mine says that she's Alana with an E, and this was Alana with an A, but still, you never know.
Funny. Super funny.
So obviously Holiday Touchdown was filmed last, but we're going to go in reverse order in talking about these. I feel like one of the added challenges, I think each of these movies had their own unique costuming challenges, but with this one, obviously you had to pay homage to the Chiefs in kind of subtle and not so subtle ways with the costuming. So does that make the process, like you come in and you're like, well, I got a color story. Like I know that. Does that make it easier or harder? How's that working?
I approached Chiefs like I did most of my Christmas movies. So like Daniel King, who was the production designer he did all of these. Yeah. He like is amazing at decking out a set. So like I don't necessarily need to rely so much on like red and green and like obvious things. So I kind of took the same approach to the Chiefs where I was like, oh, I don't need to just like throw Chiefs stuff on them. I can still like have like winter elements of sweaters because there's Chiefs things all around them, like in the fan cave. So I kind of took that approach. And then obviously being conscious of things like the use of red, even though it's supposed to be a sea of red in Chiefs Kingdom, not being too overboard with it, just because it'll completely blow out the frame. But yeah, my goal was I didn't want it to look like I just went to the Chiefs fan store.
Yeah.
Like, obviously I did, but I didn't want it to be like, that's the only place I shopped.
Well, Tyler's in a lot of creams. I feel like Tyler is like kind of a counterbalance in like his wardrobe. He has, I don't know if the listeners saw the video that you had Tyler film for us, but in the movie when he's wearing that like wide collared sweater, I'm like, that's the video. That's the sweater he's wearing in the video.
That was a highlight for me. I was like, I just thought the same thing.
You're like, we know him. No, this was the first time you worked with Tyler, yes?
Yeah, this was the first time I worked with everybody. Tyler, Hunter. I mean, a lot of people since it's an ensemble cast, a lot of people, it was their first Hallmark movies. But through and through, such an awesome cast. Experience-wise, people-wise, awesome. But yeah, Tyler's become a good friend. Hunter's become a friend. And yeah, I dressed Tyler for a bunch of press stuff this past week too. So
that's
so
so
a big
fun. That is a big compliment.
Yes.
I kind of fell in love with Hunter in this movie. Like I've seen her in other stuff. I've liked her in other stuff, but I was like, oh, like watching this movie, I was like, oh, I'm really glad she got this role. Oh, did you fall in love with Ed Begley Jr.?
He's the best. He literally was like the set's grandpa, and it's like the perfect role for him, and he's awesome. And I'm glad that everybody else fell in love with him too, because he is like that in person.
Did you have any interaction with was there like NFL PR and Hallmark PR like overlooking everything? Did they have a say in like the overall look?
Not look, but I did have a lot of work working with the NFL to make sure like everything was like official NFL license, especially in that opening sequence, because we have some like vintage Chiefs things. So like,
oh yeah,
I believe, don't quote me, I believe that right now the license is mostly through Nike, like all the jerseys and stuff, but I don't believe that was always the case. So it's understanding kind of like the license and how it's passed hands and what's licensed to use and things like that for camera. So yeah, that's how they weren't involved in like, oh, you can't use like a green sweater, but it was definitely kind of like making sure that their brand was represented correctly, which is very standard.
Yeah, they're like, you don't use some knockoff Etsy version of our
logo. Exactly.
Speaking of those opening scenes, it just dawned on me. You got to do all the costumes for those vintage type old-timey scenes as well?
Yeah, so it was 60s, 70s, and then there was like 2 scenes in the 80s. And there was more 60s with like the flashbacks of Christmas morning and stuff. So I didn't get a period movie this year, but I kind of got a little bit of period.
Yeah.
Those were highlight scenes for me in this movie, so I'm glad that you got to touch them as well.
Thanks.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, and it was cute. Like they did like the cool, like really strong light for Christmas morning. Like it was like from an old video camera. And when we were doing it, I'm like, what is this lighting? And then I was like, oh, I get it. Like it makes sense in the edit.
You did make a big announcement personally, business-wise, in regards to this movie. Do you want to share with the class what you have going on?
Yeah, so actually the first thing I designed for this movie was the finale coat that Hunter wears, and I just photoshopped 2 coats together. I personally It's like sitting right next to me. I still have my like Letterman jacket from high school from cross country. And I love, like, I always wanted to be Danny Zuko from Grease. Like, I wanted like the Letterman sweater, not even the jacket. Um, and it was just like the perfect marriage of like Hallmark and the NFL without like doing anything with branding, which I really liked. Because again, like I didn't want to just like throw like branding on things. Um, so it's called the Letterman Co. I did a super exclusive. There's only probably about 100, and I say probably because I bought 250 yards of fabric, so it might get 101, it might get 99. Um, but it's inspired by, it's not the exact same pattern. Hunter's has some like different seaming and things. Mine is like premium leather. It's a cashmere wool blend. And it's on my website. And yes, I know it is pricey, but it is exclusivity and it's premium materials. And yes, I have sold several, so thank you all.
Hey, that's
It's
amazing.
not for everybody, I know that, but you never know. And the Chiefs fandom is something that's like Chiefs and Kansas City pride is something, it's wild. It's all, you'll see when you're there. Like the Kansas City pride is like nuts.
You know, we don't live in like a football town. I mean, there's LA football teams, but I don't feel like it inspires the sort of football fandom that like Philly or Green Bay or Kansas City. So that's something that's so interesting to me. I love a community like shared passion.
Sure.
Then we don't have that. Even though we have
Well, I don't
1
either. So
billion
I grew
sports
up
teams.
in Connecticut, and we had a professional hockey team called the Whalers, and then they like merged with somebody, and now we don't have anybody. So like I'm in the same boat. But yeah, no, it's great. Well, also the other thing too is with the fandom and like the community part of it, like Hallmark cards started in Kansas City, so it really is like a natural like
Marriage.
kind of collab. Even though a lot of people
Yeah.
think it's like just Taylor and Travis, like there is like some deeper roots there, which is nice.
I mean, we know Donna Kelsey was on set. Did she ever bring a son with her?
No.
I think he was on the tour during the time, the Eras tour.
Oh.
I actually think he was filming that Ryan Murphy's series, I think.
Oh, interesting.
But I don't know.
Is
But I
he?
would have been great. He would have been very welcome to, have a cameo. Why not?
I was actually waiting for him. I thought this is going to be a big surprise. He's going to show up somehow somewhere, but
Just like
Right,
walking
like just
through
like
the
walk
background.
by and like wave.
Yeah.
mm-hmm.
Well, it was funny because my son came in there and he's like, "Oh, are those fake Chiefs players?" I was like, "Those are actual Chiefs players, like standing
What are you
right there."
talking about?
And then Andy Reid walks by. He's like, "Oh, well, that is Andy Reid." I'm like, "I know."
You didn't dress any of the NFL players, right?
So that's actually a really interesting thing. So we had background football players that were dressed as players, but they're not real players. We actually had to rent those costumes because, believe it or not, the NFL has a budget that they need to adhere to, including with equipment. So it was like a totally separate thing. However, the real NFL players, those were their real uniforms. And then Coach Andy, I had just worked with his people and was like, as long as we look winter, as long as it's something that he would wear naturally, like in the winter, sorry, it's 115 degrees. Please don't show up in shorts. And then like McCall, I was texting with for like the party scene, and I was like, and if you're playing yourself, I want you to reflect yourself. So I don't ever want to so I was kind of like, it's a cocktail party. What would you wear? Suits. I don't really want to do ties. And he sent me a couple suit options, and I liked that one. Same thing with Trey Smith, Matt McMullen. Yeah. So kind of, yes, I supervised, but I didn't really fully dress somebody just since they were such cameos and they were also in training. So like we didn't really even if I wanted to, I couldn't get people for a fitting. So that was another factor.
So many people. Like, is this the biggest cast you've worked with on a Hallmark movie?
I mean, I should go back and count it because the cameos kind of did just keep trickling in.
Yeah.
Tammy Reed was in it, and the Hunts were in it, who own the Chiefs. So yeah, if you add up all those specialty things, and we had a lot of VIP background from both the Chiefs and Hallmark, so probably yeah.
Now let me ask you too, because you said early on that you were told about this project, but it was still kind of under wraps and you didn't know the details. And we know historically that the turnaround time is really fast on these movies. Sometimes when you get the project, you only have 7 days or 14 days or whatever to pull it all together. Did you have more lead time going into this one?
I mean, maybe I had like a week heads up. They called me like right when they signed the contract to like tell me about it. But I know I think I traveled like June 16th and cameras rolled like I think right after 4th of July. So it was still like the 2-ish, 3-week situation.
I don't know how you do it.
Do you just I couldn't wardrobe myself into. Do you just run around? I mean, are you just constantly on the go as soon as you hit the ground? Are you ordering stuff? What's that
Well,
process
it's
like?
so funny. So my assistant Alana came and I actually lost my grandmother right before I traveled.
Oh, I'm so
So
sorry. I'm so
thank you.
sorry.
So like my mind was in a weird spot, but I got there and my first couple days I'm just like doing the breakdown to like understand like what we actually need. And then Alana shows up, so I like send her out shopping. I'm like, sweaters, J. Crew, Talbots, blah blah blah. She would come back with like a bag. Now, here's the thing. If you work in this business, you never come back with nothing. And she came back with like literally like a pair of jeans. And I was like, what is this? And she was like, there's literally nothing because it's July in Missouri. So basically, we just had to order everything. Or speaking of Kansas City being such a nice community, every store we went to like would go in the back, they'd go in the basement, they would like dig up like old stock of things and see like what they had, which like I don't get that customer service a lot, so like much appreciated. Um, but yeah, it's basically running around like a chicken with your head cut off. A lot of it's waiting for casting,
Oh
because
yeah.
like the local actors, like they audition like basically like when I get hired. So like right when I start, I don't necessarily have like sizes or anything. I mean, I had Tyler and Hunter early, which is great because they're like the main part of the movie. Um, but yeah, I mean, the second somebody's locked, I have like their phone number and I'm like, what's your size? I need it ASAP.
I can't imagine the stress. Like just even you talking about it right now, I'm like, I would not be able to function. My brain would not work with all that kind of like.
Yeah, that rush in the back of my mind. I'm like, are you rush shipping everything? Like, how does that work? Where is it all coming from?
So where does it go? Where are you sending it to? Like, are you
Yeah,
ordering on Amazon? Or like, what's happening here? Like,
all of the above. If you think
crazy.
about it all at once, it is very overwhelming. So like that has given me a good analogy for life. Like break it down in chunks. So like look at the first week, not all 3 weeks. Like let's
Yes.
just focus on like, okay, so like this was also interesting. So a lot of people didn't travel, I think because of the holiday, they didn't travel in, and I had 5 principal fittings on Saturday and we shot Monday, which isn't ideal, but it was great and everybody's sizes were right, so that was good, and helpful. And then, yeah, you just do it. I mean, a lot of it's confidence too from doing it for like a while. Like in September, I'll be doing this for 10 years. So like, it's my thing. And like,
You're a
if it doesn't work out, like
professional.
we'll figure it out. There's always a Target down the street.
Oh, that's funny because you know what? Sometimes I will be watching something and I go, they got that from Target because I have that too. And I'm like, I wonder if that's like a last minute freak out for somebody who has to run down to Target to grab something.
Maybe. I mean, I've done period at a Target. Like, I'm not hating.
So let's talk about the dress in Holiday Touchdown. We have the holiday party dress, and I had seen still photos of it. And I mean, a still photo never does these dresses justice because you need to see the movement. And this one
Moves.
sparkles, and it's so fun and twirly. I loved it. You designed that dress, yes?
Yes and no. So, yes. So it started as an Alice and Olivia dress that was like 3/4 and high-low, and I don't know, like I said, like my mind was in like a weird spot, so I kind of, and also that's the other thing too is like, speaking of like us talking about Mystic Christmas never really had like a dress moment.
No.
So with these like party things, that's trying to figure out like, is it a dress moment? Is it more of a casual thing? Is it like, where does the dressiness lie? And I knew I had kind of wanted a dress moment, and we had tried one, and then we were like, meh. And then we tried another one, and we were like, that's cute. But I couldn't get over the first one because of the seaming on like the bodice. Because like, I don't know, the external like shoots of the boning and like the stitching were really interesting to me. So then I was like, oh, well, what if we take that and then just like do like a full skirt? And then I was like, okay, but what color? Because like, not everybody was feeling like bright red. Because like I said, like we don't want to like wash it out with just red and it's kind of like obvious. And then also like I knew Tyler was going to be in black, so I didn't want it to be like such a stark contrast. And then I was like randomly like, so I was like, okay, let me just look for fabric and maybe that'll be the thing. And then like I found that gradient fabric, which was like the deeper red into the gold. And then I was like, oh my God. And then like Hunter's hair was like blonde. I think it's probably the same now, but it was like pretty blonde. And then I was like, oh, and then if we start at red and then it like merges and like goes into gold, and then we do a gold shoe. And it's just like the whole thing kind of came together, and it kind of like is a little bit of an Easter egg to Taylor Swift because it's kind of like the skirt looks a little like 1989-y. Um, but yeah, and it's also really cool like the way that like April, who built it, the seaming on the bodice, like the way she had to fold over the fabric, kind of gives some like darker stripes in it. And like I like the hook and eyes in the front. I don't know. There was something about it that reminded me of like padding and like industrial like stitching on like the different kind of football pads. This is like the way my mind works. And yeah, and then out came that cute little cocktail moment.
I mean, I'm like watching it. I'm like, look, it's cute and sparkly. And you were like, this was my inspiration. Like, such. That's the difference between a professional costume designer and someone who watches Hallmark movies.
Yeah. Where is that dress now?
It's going to be on display. And I think, when are you there? It's going to be at the Visitor Center in Kansas City.
Weekend
which
4.
I also have stuff from Christmas Quest.
Ooh,
so I know the dress is going to be there. And I think both of their finale jackets are there.
Can you fly in and dress those mannequins, please?
I mean, happy to travel anywhere.
Listen, I told you. So after the first Hallmark cruise, they asked for feedback. And so I did, because I love to give good feedback. And I said that they need to do they need to have a wardrobe panel. They need to have I mentioned you specifically, come and talk about all the dresses and the behind the scenes and all that stuff with like photos. And I think it would be so cool. So I hope that they take that to heart and you end up on the next cruise to have a panel.
Thanks. Yeah, like a creative panel. Like, it's not just me.
Yes.
It's like production designers. And speaking of photos, I was laughing. Lacey and I were texting last night laughing about, we had to do this whole photo shoot about Cairo for the Christmas Quest, and we barely ever see the picture. But like, there's so many things that like go into like the process of it that like barely make the cut. And it's always like, I always hate doing photos. So I'm just like, really? We're like, you're like hanging off a cliff in the finish line and now we need to take a picture.
Oh, yeah.
You'll see at the visitor center, because they sent me a picture of Lacey's and Chris's tuxes there with a bunch of props. And it's funny because Chris's mannequin's the same height as Lacey's. And I texted her, I'm like, you're so tall. So
yeah, he's a tall man, right?
Yeah, and then they're the same height. So like the dress is like a little off the floor, but it looks really great.
Cute. Well, speaking of Wendy talking about like having this creative panel, this was kind of the first time in promotion of movies where I've seen multiple people shout out costume designing, specifically you. Like there was a lot of it on the cruise. And I love seeing like behind the scenes people. Like we saw it with some of the writers getting a little more public credit than they might normally get. How was that experience for you? Because I heard your name from so many people in a lot of different places. And I feel like, and maybe I'm wrong, I don't think that's always the case. Like you kind of are like, you function in the background. People are like, that's a cool dress. But a lot of people aren't going like 2 more steps to who did that? What's the process? All of this.
I have been getting a lot of emails to that point this weekend of like, where's that sweater from? And where are those shoes from? And da-da-da-da-da. Yeah, I mean, I will say Hunter's now fiance, Chris, actually sent me the video. And I was like totally flabbergasted. They're actually recently, I don't know where it stands right now, but there was a big movement to have pay equity between costume designers and production designers, because we do contribute just as much to like the frame and the story as like the set, as well as like the writing, things like that. So not just me aside, I'm proud to like have a say in getting like the word of like costume design matters and it helps impact the character, and to the point of like if your shoe doesn't fit and you're walking down the hallway, like it's distracting you from doing your job. So it's all of those like little things that come together. So I'm super proud of it. I'm super proud to know all these people, and I really appreciate all of the love. It's my thing. I'm definitely not a mathematician, but clothes and costumes and storytelling through like textures and color and thing, it's my, and apparently dressmaking is my thing.
Well, we talked a little bit about the challenges that I think Holiday Touchdown posed. On the opposite end, you have The Finish Line and A Christmas Quest, where the challenge is making a statement where people spend the vast majority of the movies in big coats.
Yes.
So how do you make I mean, obviously, like, you get a cool coat, and Kim in Finish Line has a couple of them.
Right.
Are you just like, let me find like the coolest coat that makes sense and makes a statement? How do you make a statement? Because it's genuinely cold in these movies. We're not just like feigning cold, like Touchdown.
Yeah. And it's, well, yeah. And then Touchdown on the other side was 110 degrees. Like, I had heat stroke twice. I thought I was going to go down twice. Like, no joke. When I don't know how they were wearing coats. I was in shorts and a t-shirt and I was like about to go down. Anyways, the thing I love about Finish Line in the clothes is they're really real. Like, they're all like, they look like real people. It's not anything too, not the word costumey. It's not too Hollywood, I guess. I don't know if Kim's vegan or vegetarian, but she specifically requested to not wear down feathers. So that automatically like shifted to like certain brands and certain fills. And the brand she actually wears has an Icelandic wool fill. It's called Icewear. It's an Icelandic brand. That was super great to us. Yeah, and that was the thing, is like she wears her like race outfit the whole time. So it was like adding all the pieces of like the neck piece and the goggles and the hat and kind of like doing variations of that. So that was important. And then she has like her, practice outfits. And then it's kind of more having fun with like the other stuff. And actually it was kind of a relief in both movies to like, because in Quest they had like their adventure Indiana Jones outfit.
Yeah.
It allowed me and my team to like put our energy into like all the other creative stuff, and like gives you like a little bit of a break, and especially like a short filming period. And also like when it cuts together, like it didn't really make that much of a difference to me. It allowed you to kind of focus on like the action and the story.
Yeah, I mean, I watched Quest last night, and it's such a beautiful movie. All of the pieces come together, like the filming location. There's one scene where they're going to a waterfall, and it like pans down from the waterfall and like pulls back to Lacey and Chris like hiking across an ice field. But I was like, this is like being Wendy's gonna die. It's like being on the like Soarin' Over the World ride at Disneyland. Yeah. Like the way that I'm like, this is magical. So one thing I noticed about that movie is Lacey has a lot of bare shoulder moments.
Mm-hmm.
Is that intentional? I was like, this is like not one, but like 3 or 4 moments where like there's an obvious like shoulder cutout, angular shoulder, one shoulder. And a part of me is like, are they trying to like, this is the only part of her they can bear because it's freaking freezing and that's the only way we can do this? Or what's going on there?
So as you just used the example of like, oh, it's just a pretty dress. And I'm like, oh my God, it's all these things. But this is an example of the opposite. That's a style that Lacey really likes. And I thought there was a lot of things I was finding that had some like certain edginess to it. And it just kind of like worked out that way.
Yeah, maybe she's like, I got great shoulders. Like, she looks great.
Like, yeah, I liked like the red one that had like the band here and kind of like an angular thing. It kind of added this thing edginess to it.
Yes.
And then her hero one, which you only see like twice without the coat, was actually like a tank with like a sweater over it that had kind of like little slits here.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And also since like I've never used so much black in a Christmas movie, which is also kind of why I like it. And it allows like the texture. It was, I got a really big compliment since Quest was the second one I did in Iceland. And we used a lot of Icelandic actors. When I was dressing them, they would be like, oh, this is very Icelandic. And I was like, oh, done. I was like, we love it.
Yeah,
because they have very interesting, unique ways of like layering or doing like a turtleneck with like a crew neck over it, and like just very interesting ways of like layering. And it's also very like neutral and boxy and a little bit not what we're used to.
Well, they make a joke about their hotel room at one point because it's very like, it's upscale, but very sterile. And they're like, well, it's a nice hotel room. And she goes, yeah, for a Bond villain. And it fully shifted the way I viewed the movie. I was like, oh, that is kind of the look. This like European, edgy, upscale, like real cool vibe came through. And a lot of her clothing's like kind of angular. I thought it worked together is what I would say.
Thank you. And I think it's different for Lacey too, which we've talked about a lot.
Yeah.
Like, I always try to focus on like what's different and trying to like not dress them in like what you've seen them in a million times before. And this character in the story was just so different. And And it's really cool. I mean, I don't know. The Icelandic folklore is really, really cool. I got into it. I was like, let's go find the Yulad's cave. And they're like, it's over there somewhere, but nobody knows where it is. And I was like, let's go.
Let's go. Hallmark National Treasure.
What an
Yeah,
opportunity
literally.
to be there. Like, so stunning. Like, you have such a cool job.
Yeah, to be there twice.
Yeah, we
came
were there
home
for
in
like
between?
3.5 months. Like I had like an apartment. Like I was like living there.
Oh, wow.
So you did not come home in between.
No, we rolled. I shopped a bunch here and sent a bunch of stuff. Then I traveled over. I think I had 2 weeks there. Filmed Finish Line for 2 weeks. Went to Finland for a week. Came back to Iceland and jumped right into Quest. 2 weeks. And then started filming again. And Lacey had some other scheduling things. So like I know we were pretty constricted. So like it was like, we have to do this right now.
Did you have to go film Hot Frosty?
Did you like Hot Frosty?
I loved Hot Frosty.
Oh,
It was
cute.
everything I wanted it to be. I am such a huge fan of the writer of that movie, Russell Heinlein. It was completely silly and absurd, and I loved every minute of it. It was thought to love. So let's talk about Lacey's gown moment. To me, again, knowing nothing about anything, I was like, "Ooh, it's like the night sky," because I feel like the northern lights are a thing where they are, and I was like, that's kind of. It felt like stars cascading across the dress. But tell me your actual inspiration.
Well, I love that. That's not a bad thing at all. So I went on vacation right before I went to Iceland because I was like, I need to go to the sun because I'm going to be in like the tundra for the next 4 months. So I was like laying by the pool, and that's like I love to like disconnect and just like sketch and like let my hand do whatever it wants to do. And I just posted on my story yesterday the sketch, and I knew I wanted to do like off the shoulder, but I wanted to do like the knot kind of thing to add some interest. But the biggest thing was I wanted cascading beading to remind me of like you were talking about waterfalls and like gravity. And then I had found this cocktail dress that had this beading that I loved because we don't have time, as we've been talking about. So beading takes forever.
Forever, yeah.
Anything like beading, stoning, I mean, sewing takes forever to begin with. So just the fact building a dress that quickly, never mind like a gown with a train, and like fitting it on Lacey like 4 days before we shoot, like, yes, I'm mentally insane. So I had found that cocktail dress and I loved the beading because it reminded me of springtime when there's like one last frost and things have started to bloom, but then it like crystallizes over it. And that really kind of reminded me from what I knew of Iceland was it was very natural and had like winter, but also like a great amount of like nature and like woods and flowers and things. So basically we took the cocktail dress that was short, completely redid the neckline, cut out all of the beading at the bottom because it was a cascading situation, and then completely added a full skirt. And then I added like the neckline and then that like kind of like ribbon piece in the back, which I love that shot of them like racing into like the museum and it's like trailing behind. And okay, I've never, ever, ever, no offense, I've never seen so many straight men say, don't step on the dress, don't step on the dress. And what happened on like the second take? Stepped on the dress.
Chris.
It comes with the territory. Originally, I had planned to do 2 because we didn't know when certain people were going to be stunted or not, depending on like, there were certain things that were originally there that weren't there, and anyways. But I always say like with my jackets I'm doing, it always takes twice the time and twice the amount of money. So that dress is the perfect example. It took twice the amount of time.
Speaking of people to work with, we know you've worked with and you love Lacey.
Yeah.
This is your first time working with Palaha?
No, we did Biltmore.
Oh my
duh.
gosh. I'm sorry. We met him for about 25 seconds on the cruise, and he was like warm and lovely to us. Do you just love him too?
Yeah, he's great. And super charactery. I like anybody that embraces kind of like, he's a storyteller, Lacey's a storyteller. Like, I love that kind of thing. And people that have been in the business, just like, they get it. And Chris will put something on, he'll be like, how are we feeling? And if he asks how we're feeling, I'm kind of like, we're not feeling it. Because if you have to ask, that means you're not feeling it.
Yeah, you know as soon as you put it on if it's good
Yeah.
or not, right? Yeah.
He what I noticed about this, and I'm starting to notice more, like he's a real all-in actor. Like he just goes for it in those moments, and that's real fun. Like when he's mad on scene, he's big mad. I thought this movie was great. This was a tough weekend because there were so many movies
And like heavy hitters, yeah.
and heavy hitters,
Yeah.
and like Touchdown got so much promotion, and I understand it, but at the same time I'm like, man, we should have been talking about Quest for weeks. Like I feel like I didn't see a Christmas Quest promo until Thursday.
Really? I mean, I'd seen a couple, but I guess on the TV, I'd seen more online. I guess what you're
Like
thinking.
when they first started promoting it before, like early back in April, when they were starting to talk about it.
Right.
It
And then
was like-
Touchdown came in.
Yeah, I felt like Quest was like in line to be this year's big movie, and then Touchdown came in. But I think they nailed it. You do not have a gown moment in the finish line, as we talked about, and I know how much you love a gown moment.
I do. There was really no place for it.
Yeah.
And I felt like it wouldn't have worked.
Yeah, unless they had like some big party to celebrate her win. Spoiler
Yeah, it
alert
was more
if you
just about
haven't
the
seen
race.
it.
So, I mean, not racing in the gown.
Yeah. Yeah,
Maybe
yeah,
the
yeah.
dogs make up for the lack of gown. Did you get to interact with the dogs at all, or are they very
Oh, the amount of shots, you don't see me, I didn't make the cut, but the amount of shots I'm in there, like petting the dogs, because like those dogs, they're just kind of trained. When they put a harness on, they want to run. Like they want to go. So it's hard for them to just sit there. But if a lot of the crew was in there, like petting them and stuff to like keep them quiet, because, you know, like we need audio and stuff. But I think there was like 5 or 6 teams of dogs at one point. Like it was nuts. Like I think it's easier like filming with toddlers.
Yeah, that's a lot of dogs.
Like,
Yeah, because they got
Yeah, and then at certain times, because like if they did certain amount of runs, they'd have to swap out the dog teams so they could go and like rest. So yeah, it was like a whole scheduling thing.
an extra layer to that movie. Like I hadn't even thought about.
I know all
the
these
animals.
things. Well, when that movie, it makes me feel good to hear that there's so many teams of dogs. Because when it was first announced, I was like, oh, the poor dogs. But I'm sure they were so well loved on that set that.
Not only on the set, their owners, like they're like dog racing is like, and like dog sledding tours, that's like their livelihood. So I mean, I love animals, so
I mean, you got a dog movie and you got an aquarium movie last year.
yeah, which I love the aquarium movie because 1, that's in my home state, but 2, they do so much rehabilitation. And like they have a whole rescue thing. Like if you see like a seal that's beached, you can call them and they rehab them and then they release them. So it's not just an aquarium. They're mainly a rehab facility.
Speaking of Mystic Christmas, I swear I saw Jesse Schramm wearing the jacket from Mystic Christmas this weekend in photos at the Hallmark.
Ding,
Christmas.
ding, ding.
I
Didn't
knew
it?
it. Does she have
That's
it?
one that she had bought, which totally
Nice.
is such a good coat. Because she had texted me and she's like, I have all these events. What do I wear? But by the way, I'm taking the green tote. And I was like, good.
I love that freaking green coat. As soon as I saw it, I was like, that's from Mystic Christmas. I know it.
Well, and it's
Well, I
funny
hope
because
somebody else there noticed because that's a
they
cute
did,
little-
because in the Kansas City Experience Facebook group, someone posted, they posted a photo of her, and then someone else was like, is that her jacket from Mystic Christmas? And I was like, it is. And I was made me so happy that somebody else, like, we interviewed you, we talked about that movie, like we talked about, so it was embedded in my brain.
It's in our brain.
But
yeah.
like
Right.
for the average viewer, I was like, oh, that's got to feel really good. I commented, I was like, the costume designer Keith Nielsen should be so proud that she's still wearing that and that y'all are recognizing it.
Yeah, I love that, especially a year later for sure.
Yes.
That's the cool thing I love about doing Hallmark is like there's this old saying that good costume design's invisible, but I think it can still be good and noticeable because it's like memorable and it works. And that's like one of the examples.
I love that. Do you have a favorite moment from filming any of these movies that you haven't gotten to tell us about?
Not dying in Arrowhead Stadium. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Honestly, this is a wild thing. I don't know if I sent you this picture, but I had a Native American Indian dog that was half wolf, part husky, and part Malamute for 17 years as a child, from 8 to 25. And what's wild is we were in Finland and I was taking a picture of her with the dog, and I was like, I want a picture. And the way I have a picture, which is my home screen still, and it's my dog and me as an 8-year-old, and my dog's looking up at me, about to like lick me, and my hands are in the same position. No lie, Kim took a picture of me. The dog's looking up at me, and hands are in the same position. So
Oh
it
my
was
goodness,
kind of
I
like
have
this
to go look
weird,
through the photos that you
yeah, it's this like
sent.
weird thing of like full circle thing. But I guess in all, it's the international travel is so awesome. Kim, Nicole, and I went on a snowmobiling trip in Finland looking for the Northern Lights. We didn't see them. When they say hunting for the Northern Lights, it is hunting. You will
Oh.
keep driving and travel. Because here's the thing. You see the Northern Lights in the winter. Winter brings snow. What does snow come from? The clouds. So you
Yeah.
can't see anything.
Yeah.
That's something, including me, didn't recognize. But I was driving the snowmobile through the woods, and I was like, how effing cool is this? Like, this is my job. And I'm out in the woods of Finland. And then they ended at this like little hut, and we had like little like hot dogs and s'mores. It was cute.
Oh, amazing.
Goodness.
That's so amazing. I'm so envious of your amazing job.
Now,
But
do
here's
you
like there's other challenges too. Like
Of course.
Iceland's so cool, but it's so expensive, like everything across the board because everything's imported. So including for me work-wise budgetarily, like shirts are like almost double the price. Like even at like an H&M or a Zara, like a $30 shirt here is going to be like 50 to 60 bucks there US. So like it definitely affects the amount of quantity I can get.
Yeah, you're like, keep that coat on, Kim. We don't have the budget for you to change your shirt day to day.
Yeah, like, can we use the same coat? We're using the same pants the whole time.
Yeah. You can have 2 coats and
Yeah.
1 pair of pants. Bring your own socks. Hey, do you have anything lined up for next year?
I've heard rumors. I'm a free agent, people. Call me. Not as of yet. I mean, I just finished a movie in Albany with Rachel Lee Cook. So and also things in film slow down in the winter anyway. So
For sure.
I mean, I'm optimistic and hopeful for January. I mean, I'd love another couple awesome like tentpole movies.
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
look, I think it's very clear. Like you did Biltmore, you did Touchdown, you did Quest. I think it's clear. Like
You're the go-to.
you're the go-to guy. So
Yeah.
I have no doubt that you're gonna be. It'll just be one of those names that we see in credits, just
Forever and ever.
Yes.
We're like,
I
we
love
knew,
that.
we know that guy.
We'll be like, he used to come on our podcast before he was too famous. Tell people where they can find you on the internet.
I'm mostly active on Instagram, Keith_costumes and KeithCostumes.com. And then you can always email me if you want to know where shoes are from at Keith@KeithCostumes.com.
People email us sometimes. Like, do you know where that's from? I was like, you got the wrong ladies. Like,
Well, it's
We
so
don't know.
funny. It's the most thing I get. They're like, I know it's a long shot, and maybe it's just me. I like pretty much remember where like everything is from, and I think that's part of it because I like buy a lot of it. Just 'cause, like,
sure.
I'm the one that has the creative conversation, so like I know what we're looking for. But I don't know. I was I'm in because somebody emailed me for some stuff, and I was like, that's that, and that's that, and that's that. Even after like, I mean, it'll be years down the road. It's actually one of my favorite games when I like meet somebody. I'm like, is that coat from J. Crew? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, I know.
That's hilarious.
You need to start. I mean, I feel like you have a whole second business where you're like showing people where to buy this stuff and affiliate linking the heck out of it.
Well, so I started doing that, and then I got another job, and it was crazy and busy. Yeah, I think this week I'm actually having an interview about kind of like crafting and like the perfect look, and especially like where to buy it. And it's not even just where to buy it; it's like looking at tones and cut and proportion and all of these things. Which is interesting because I learned all of those things on paper as an artist, and now it's like doing it in 3D on a body.
Yeah, I love that. In my mind, I was like, oh, maybe we need to fly to Connecticut and do a a Keith Costumes style session.
Oh, you need your own TV show on Hallmark Plus, I think, where you're like
Oh my
helping style
God.
women who need help. You
Oh
know?
my gosh.
That would be not even just need like a makeover show. Like it also,
Yes.
it's funny. I was gonna text Lacey when if she does another season of Celebrations. I want like to maybe like come in and somebody like that she's helping because I
Needs a
know it's like
makeover.
local heroes and stuff.
That's a great
and like
idea.
dress them like for the party or something.
That's such a fun idea, but I'm telling you, your own show would be great too because you have.
I
the
mean, not mad at it. I'm saying we
You
need to
have
start somewhere.
You have such a fantastic personality too. Like you would make like you would have a great presence on.
Like I'm picturing like a new version of What Not to Wear, but like the nice
Yes.
version where you're not like that makes you look terrible. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Because I
Yeah,
feel
no,
like,
not mean, but like
No.
building people up and guiding
Yes.
to like make them feel and look better. Yeah. Because it's like,
yeah, and be like, this is how you dress your body. This is how you feel confident in the clothes. This is how you don't hide behind this. Yes.
Dude,
Oh.
Keith, get your people to pitch that to Hallmark Plus. Seriously, they're killing it over there with the Finding Mr. Christmas reality segment.
This is a perfect fit.
all right, maybe we'll. I did have a couple ideas for future movies that I think they might have pitched. So I'll throw that.
Wow.
This has been an absolute delight. Thank you so much for joining us. We will
Thank
leave
you.
links to all of everywhere you can find Keith, including his beautiful Letterman coat. Is it a coat? It's a coat.
Yes, it's a coat. It's not a jacket.
Oh, yeah. See? Thank you for listening to this episode of Girls Gone Hallmark, a Bramble Jam podcast. If you love this podcast, we love your 5-star ratings and reviews. You can leave them in the Apple Podcast app, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
All right, friends, before we go, just a quick heads up. You're about to hear some ads. These little gems help us keep the show running and the Hallmark love flowing. So do with that info what you will. Grab a snack, hit the skip button, or maybe, just maybe, listen in and discover your new favorite product.
You know that feeling when you're at Ross and you find the best gifts for way less? Like brand name sweaters, the coolest kids' toys, and plush dog beds? Get that feeling with every gift and save 20 to 60% off other retailers' prices. At Ross, yes, for less.
Kroger Delivery makes it easy to do your holiday shopping in a jingle. There might be a lot on your to-do list, but thanks to Kroger Delivery, you can get everything you need delivered straight to your door at the same great prices you'd find in store. Our refrigerated trucks always ensure that your groceries arrive fresh. And right now, you can save $20 on your first order of $75 or more and get free delivery with a Boost membership. Restrictions apply. See site for details. Kroger, fresh for everyone.
Bye.
NetCredit is here to say yes, because you're more than a credit score. Apply in minutes and get a decision as soon as the same day. Loans offered by NetCredit or lending partner banks and serviced by NetCredit. Application subject to review and approval. Learn more at netcredit.com/partners. NetCredit. Credit to the people.
You know that feeling when you're at Ross and you find the best gifts for way less? Like brand name sweaters, the coolest kids' toys, and plush dog beds? Get that feeling with every gift and save 20 to 60% off other retailers' prices. At Ross, yes, for less.
NetCredit is here to say yes to a personal loan or line of credit when other lenders say no. Apply in minutes and get a decision as soon as the same day. Loans offered by NetCredit or lending partner banks and serviced by NetCredit. Application subject to review and approval. Learn more at netcredit.com/partners. NetCredit. Credit to the people.
You know that feeling when you're at Ross and you find the best gifts for way less? Like brand name sweaters, the coolest kids' toys, and plush dog beds? Get that feeling with every gift and save 20 to 60% off other retailers' prices. At Ross, yes, for less.
NetCredit is here to say yes to a personal loan or line of credit when other lenders say no. Apply in minutes and get a decision as soon as the same day. Loans offered by NetCredit or lending partner banks and serviced by NetCredit. Application subject to review and approval. Learn more at netcredit.com/partner. NetCredit. Credit to the people.
You know that feeling when you're at Ross and you find the best gifts for way less? Like brand name sweaters, the coolest kids' toys, and plush dog beds? Get that feeling with every gift and save 20 to 60% off other retailers' prices. At Ross, yes, for less.
Top reasons technology pros want to move to Ohio. A thriving tech industry with high-paying jobs for programmers, developers, database architects, and more. Ohio is the Silicon Heartland with the top tech brands and thousands of startups, too. Shorter commute times mean more time for you. And since your dollar goes further in Ohio, it's like a cheat code for success. The tech career you want and a life you'll love. Have it all in the heart of it all. Learn more at callohiohome.com.
NetCredit is here to say yes to a personal loan or line of credit when other lenders say no. Apply in minutes and get a decision as soon as the same day. Loans offered by NetCredit or lending partner banks and serviced by NetCredit. Application subject to review and approval. Learn more at netcredit.com/partner. NetCredit. Credit to the people.
At Wellstar, we believe in more. More doctors who are highly experienced and highly rated by people like you. More teams of caregivers who are world-renowned and designed around your unique needs. And more expert care and unwavering compassion across many specialties. Because we believe in the power of expertise and empathy. Wellstar, it's more than healthcare. It's people care.
You know that feeling when you're at Ross and you find the best gifts for way less? Like brand name sweaters, the coolest kids' toys, and plush dog beds? Get that feeling with every gift and save 20 to 60% off other retailers' prices. At Ross, yes, for less.
I got a line.
He got a line.
She got a line. We got 4 lines. Cricket Nation. Cue finger guns. Really easy. Super stress-free. 5G so fast. Like blazing fast. Games and memes. You'll have a blast. You can get fast 5G across 4 lines. You can get fast 5G across 4 lines. As we discuss, take it from us. We 4 are one. Cricket Nation.
And only $25 a line. Welcome to more lines. Welcome to Cricket Nation. Smile, you're on Cricket.
Cricket 5G requires a compatible device and is not available everywhere. Discount varies by line. Fees may apply. Terms and restrictions apply. See cricketwireless.com for details.